4 o'clock, I will call the meeting of the Waxahachie Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that all 7 trustees are in attendance, and this meeting has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been duly posted for time and manner required by law. Our first item on our agenda will be our board workshop, which is our rezoning workshop. Mr. Calvin.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, board and Dr. Hollingsworth. Kind of want to walk you through the rezoning exercises that we've been going through as a leadership team. We all know with the opening of Elementary 10 that we're going to have to come up with an attendance zone for them. So we're going through the rezoning process. Just going into it, wanted to just kind of set the expectations. When we go into rezoning, our goals ultimately are to utilize all of our spaces efficiently. So we're trying not to have any one campus super underutilized while another is over capacity. We're trying to use them as best we can for the most immediate period and going forward. So as long as we can without having to rezone again or without having to resort to portable buildings. The next bullet, we want to limit the use of portable buildings and avoid them whenever possible. We also want to be mindful of potential socioeconomic disparities between campuses. So we're not looking to load up any one campus with, say, 90% economically disadvantaged status while the others are sitting at an elementary level of 20%, because that would give us a really big gap. So we do look at that, knowing full well that at elementaries we have more of a neighborhood elementary feel. So it is kind of hard to always balance out that socioeconomic status, but that is a goal. And also we try to use I-35 and Highway 287 as hard boundaries. We try not to have zones that cross those barriers because we want to make it as available for students to walk to campus if they so choose. And we know that those are really big hurdles for some students. Right now, elementary-wise, this is what our current boundary looks like. So again, kind of looking at that hard 287, north side stays below it, and Simpson and Felty are north of 287, and then I-35 and 77 down south between Dunaway and Clift is also kind of that boundary line. This is kind of what it's looking like, the forecast with our current plan. So you'll see there are some significant enrollment concerns going on for 24-25, projected concerns over at Clift, Simpson, and Wedgeworth. Wedgeworth not exceeding building fire capacity, but we would definitely be exceeding our functional capacity and start worried about total number of students on that campus. If you look out a couple of years to 27-28, you see the number of campuses that there are concerns identified growing. You see it to essentially half of our elementary campuses by that time, which is why we were talking about in our LRPC and our 17,000 student plan, constructing at least one elementary campus now and looking at Jet Elementary to come online pretty soon thereafter, along with the expansion of Wildman STEAM Academy. All those different moves give us additional capacity within the district at the elementary level so that we are not looking at all of these yellow blocks with enrollment above fire capacity and looking at more portable buildings throughout the district. So current numbers, you're really looking at the last column over here, the economically disadvantaged percentage. The highest percent right now is at Marvin at 75% of the students enrolled are economically disadvantaged. So again, one of our stated goals is not to make that any more out of alignment than it currently is. Again, I'm going to tell you that it's not super easy as you're going through elementaries, but elementaries are those neighborhoods, and so they do make it a little bit harder as we go through. So we've been working as a leadership team to come up with some possible solutions. We will call this Elementary Plan 2. And so we had Elementary Plan 1, and we made too many changes to keep it Elementary Plan 1, so we came up with a new Elementary Plan 2. So the big purple area that you see coming on is Jimmy Ray Elementary, and that's in that Saddlebrook zone, which is exactly where we thought. It was going to be a neighborhood school. We put it in that zone for a reason. There's a lot of future plan development out in that area. There's also a good number of students who currently live in that zone. So we are encouraged by the idea that Elementary 10 or Jimmy Ray Elementary can stay on the northern or eastern side of 287 without having to go across 287. Yes, sir.
And just to point out, trustees, the red lines, those are your current boundaries. That's where our current boundaries are. Another really good kind of landmark, that green star there between the purple and the pink, that's Howard. So there's Broadhead Road. So there's a big impact, obviously, to those. In this plan, there would be a big impact to that neighborhood, that Buffalo Ridge, is that what it's called? Buffalo Ridge neighborhood, that would impact those folks moving down to Jimmy Ray.
That's a really good point. So the big rocks that you're seeing with this plan, the Simpson zone is getting smaller. We know that we've got some capacity issues over at Simpson if we leave the zone the way it's currently drawn, so we need to shrink that zone. You see the light blue coming down closer to Simpson. That's the Shackelford zone. Obviously, Clift is going to have undergo a major change because right now the Clift students are all of the Saddlebrook zone goes to Clift, and so they will have their own campus with Ray Elementary. So the Clift zone is going to see a significant change. You also see a little bit of a shrinking of the Felty zone. Again, Felty, an existing campus, but it has a really large student population surrounding it. So as any available lands around Felty continue to get built on and built out, we do expect that zone to shrink a little bit. So we've talked about some zones getting smaller. We're looking at Shackelford getting larger because we are currently underutilizing that campus. We also looked at Marvin's zone shifting a little bit as we look to utilize Clift to an appropriate level. The next zones to it are going to be Marvin and Northside, so we're looking at taking some students from both the Marvin zone and Northside zone, which means we turn around and we shift those zones the other way to make sure that we're utilizing those campuses as best as we can. One thing about the Marvin zone, it does have a lottery component to it, so it is not incumbent on us to fully zone it at capacity, because we do know that with the biomedical that we do have some lottery options for students who do not live in that Marvin zone to attend that campus. Northside does make a little bit of a gain on the west side of its zone over by Wedgeworth. Again, that's to try to utilize that campus as best as we can, because we know that we're growing. We also know that there's a lot of planned growth in the Wedgeworth zone, so it makes sense for us to try to pull some students out of that campus as early as we can. Let's see. And so those are kind of the highlights at this point of Elementary Plan 2. Want to take you to what that looks like from a student enrollment perspective. Okay.
Why don't we pause there, Mr. Calden?
Yes,
I
sir.
hear some questions percolating. So do y'all, anything in particular y'all want to ask at this point? We do not zone Wildman. That is a change that occurred. I was telling Ms. Timmerman, she asked me that this morning. That's a change that occurred prior to my arrival. But Wildman is fully lottery, and that's been the case 4 years?
I believe 3 or 4 years. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
2018-19, when it opened, it had a zone. It might have had a zone for 2 years.
I believe, yes, in 2020, when Simpson opened, I believe that's when we made Marvin, Wildman lottery.
Lottery only, okay.
We'll talk a little bit more about Wildman and its numbers of enrollment on the next slide, but we'll get there here in a minute. after
It's
we
just a
look at the
little
plan.
confusing when you put Wildman on there in green. That's,
In green?
isn't that green?
The reason it's on it,
Isn't that
it
green?
actually has a zone, but it's the actual campus location.
It's just confusing, because I know it's lottery only. It's just confusing when you look
So
at the
the
grid.
green ones on there should only be junior highs. The green and the red is Coleman, the green and the yellow.
You see in your legend where it says Wildman and it's green?
Oh, gotcha. I got you. Okay. Yeah, so it's just the, I got you.
Could get
I
confusing.
wasn't even looking at the legend. I apologize. Yep, it's really just the site it sits on.
I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If we go back, and I said this to Dr. Hollingsworth today, if we go back to that first slide, can you do that?
This
No,
one or keep going?
Okay. Third bullet.
Yes, ma'am.
If we go back to that one, aren't we doing that with Wyman if we keep it full lottery? Aren't we going against that bullet?
I don't think so, from the standpoint of having the various schools of choice routes, the bus transportation that we're offering throughout the district. I believe we've made that more appealing and more available to all students in the district by if you get your kid just to any existing elementary or the bus stop for those choice routes, that we will transport them over to Wildman, as compared to if Wildman was just a hard and fast zone with a little bit of a lottery. The hard and fast zone in that area is not necessarily going to be very representative of our district as a whole. And so now your component for reducing that socioeconomic disparity is fully baked into the lottery. And that may or may not draw you enough students to even out that economic disparity as compared to having the full lottery open to the entire district.
And I will tell you, our most recent conversations that we've had in cabinet are centering around our getting the word to our pre-K families, because obviously that's where we're going to be able to impact that socioeconomic status to make it look more like Waxahachie. That's really our goal. So we want to get more of our pre-K families aware of those opportunities at Marvin, the opportunities we have for dual language at Dunaway and at Wedgeworth, and the opportunities we have for STEAM at Wildman. And so we're really working hard to get that word out. We've only done the hubs now for 1 year. And last year was the first year we were able to get that word out, but we didn't have enough time building up to the lottery to really publicize that.
So, Ms. Timmerman, to your point, Wildman is currently at 28.8% economically disadvantaged, which doesn't sound like a really good cross-section of our district, since we're closer to 50% as a district. So that's where we're relying on that increased effort in getting that word out to more families to make sure that they understand it's available, and that if they can help us just a little bit, even if we will provide the transportation to get their students there to make it an opportunity for all students.
What's that same number with Wedgeworth? What number is Wedgeworth? Do you know off the top of your head?
Wedgeworth right now is 70.3% economically disadvantaged.
Okay, so is there any way to take some pressure off of Wedgeworth with Wildman? Make that zone a little heavier weighted to where the lottery would take more of the Wedgeworth zone?
Absolutely. We could start looking at, any way through the lottery, if we need to take students from certain zones or certain campuses, we can definitely look at that in the lottery. To this point, it's been a pure lottery. It's been...
Sounds like you solved two issues with
potentially,
doing that.
yes, sir. Absolutely.
How many take advantage of the hub? Do we know the latest numbers on that?
Martin's are.
I don't know that number at this point. No, ma'am. Okay. All right, so this is, again, this is just that elementary Plan 2 map that we were looking at, which these would be the expected numbers of enrollment following that. So 24, 25, all campuses would look like they're pretty good. 25-6, I'm not concerned about Marvin, again, because it does have a lottery component on the backside, and we're talking 2 students that would be over the functional capacity. Simpson would right now look almost 20 students over functional capacities. We do anticipate, Ms. Timmerman, we did keep Wildman the same static enrollment all the way across because it does not have a zone with student population in it. So we do anticipate that campus enrollment would increase from 400 to closer to 800. So I do believe that we would get at least 20 students from that Simpson zone as part of that increase in the Wildman zone. So I'm not as concerned about the Simpson 668 student number in 25-26. And when we're out to 26-27, you see at that point, that's when we're talking about needing Frankie Lugette Elementary to come online to help us with the additional student enrollment as we get to those points. Of specific concern with the way these, with this zone being drawn is when I look out to 33-34, I start seeing the what could be's in terms of student enrollment at these campuses. I look at Clift and I see that I didn't really solve my Clift problem for too terribly long. That within the next 10 years, Clift is looking at close to 1,000 students enrolled. That's not going to be possible at that campus without a significant number of portables. Same thing at Ray Elementary. They do fairly well for a good while till about the 2030 school year, 2031 school year. But then when I look at 33-34, I'm over 1,100 students, which goes to tell me the number of planned lots out in that zone that would be significant for that campus. Marvin doesn't scare me a ton because they have the lottery component with their zone. It's generally a fairly stable zone, but to be out to 530 does not concern me a ton in 33-34. Shackelford is a little concerning as they've shifted more south towards Simpson and a little bit of changing out to the west. I see that they're getting out to over 1,000 students in 33-34. Again, this is a projected model. Simpson, we have significantly slowed down on the population at Simpson, but it is still expected to grow to about 700 by the time we get to 33-34 with this revised plan. And then the largest concern of all of them in 33-34, Wedgeworth is sitting at almost 2,000 students, which by comparison would be about twice what we would expect at a junior high in our district. So we would definitely need to address that going forward. But in the immediate, I look at 25-26, and it doesn't give me a ton of concerns. I get to 26-27, we might need to be looking at some relief at Wedgeworth, maybe with a portable, maybe with some other, with the Wildman zone growing and almost doubling capacity, we may be pulling additional students. To Mr. Rogers' point, we may be prioritizing that Wedgeworth zone to pull some students out to make it a tenable situation to get through 26-27, but then we would be looking for Jet Elementary to be opening somewhere around the end of 27, the beginning of the 27-28 school year, and that would provide some additional relief to all those campuses and put us right back in this conversation about rezoning again. From a grade report perspective, the little bit of good news I can offer you is Marvin, our most economically disadvantaged campus, did not get worse. They went from 75 to 74.9. So we'll call it a break even, a tie. Within some of the other campuses did increase their economically disadvantaged percentages. Again, it's one of those that I don't know is truly avoidable with a neighborhood school model, but none of them eclipsed our current most economically disadvantaged campus with the way the zones are currently drawn or planned as part of this plan too. Kind of walk through some of the significant areas of change. The Buffalo Ridge neighborhood is currently going to Felty, would be zoned to go to elementary. I believe that's 10. That's going to be Ray Elementary. Significant group up there in that blue circle that's currently zoned to go to Simpson would be shifting to go to Felty, and then also in the green circle would move from Simpson to Ray Elementary. And so the further you get from that campus, the more we can expect to have some sort of shift in campus every time we have a rezoning. Again, we would expect that Felty zone to continue to get smaller as it becomes more dense and more built out. Garden Valley has really helped shrink that zone over by Felty. And so right now you're looking at the two main drivers are Indian Hills and Garden Valley. And so as we continue to add more students and more houses in those neighborhoods, especially Garden Valley, that Felty zone is likely going to continue to shrink. One big one that we talked about, or that I mentioned earlier, we're essentially chopping off the northern half of that Simpson zone. It's just not, there are going to be too many planned houses and too many planned students to make that Simpson zone as it's currently drawn realistic. So we would be looking at moving those students to Shackelford, which would help that immediate Shackelford enrollment. It does long-term, though. It's going to give us a long-term concern as we go, because there is a significant number of houses planned in those areas, and we believe they're going to start coming online pretty soon. And then as we kind of move around, the blue circle is not super densely populated with students, but they are currently zoned to go to Dunaway, and they would shift over to Marvin as that Marvin zone shifts a little bit west, and we pull some students off of the eastern zone of Marvin to go to Clift. And then the orangish circle would be a shift from Wedgeworth, try to pull some planned student growth and capacity out of Wedgeworth and move them to Dunaway to kind of replace the students that left Dunaway to go to Marvin. And then the green circle that I can hardly see is moving from, again, pulling from Wedgeworth with concerns about planned number of students and planned growth in that area, pull some students from Wedgeworth into that Marvin zone as well. And then on the Clift border, Clift boundary, we're looking at the townhomes that are along Farley Street and 287, pulling those down into the Clift zone out of Northside, and also pulling from the eastern end of the Marvin zone into Clift to utilize that campus and make sure that we're not underutilizing that Clift campus. So with this proposed change in the Northside zone, we'd be looking to recover some student enrollment by pulling some off the John Arden area, currently zoned to Wedgeworth, and have them going to Northside. So that would be, again, providing a little bit of pressure relief to Wedgeworth in the immediacy, and also utilizing that Northside campus. Yes, sir.
This map here has the area around John Arden, what we call College Hill, circled. They're gonna go from Northside to Clift?
No, sir, that's a typo that I missed. That should be that should be from Wedgeworth to Northside.
Okay.
They're currently zoned to Wedgeworth, and they would go to Northside. Good, thank you. Appreciate it. So those are the big changes, the big rocks that would be moving with the elementary plan. It's not perfect, but it definitely tries to address as many of those original considerations that Ms. Timmerman mentioned at the very beginning. It tries to address as many of those as possible by utilizing our facilities as best we can, and not, and also using those boundaries, those hard and fast boundaries as best we can, and not trying to have a huge disparity between economic disadvantage status in our campuses. This is the junior high plan. So the yellow is the current junior high boundary. Right now, you will notice that Simpson, the current Simpson plan does go to all three junior highs. So it is a split campus in terms of where it goes to junior high. With this new elementary plan, so elementary plan 2, it would let us get back to pure feeders at the junior highs. So every campus would go to one junior high instead of having it split multiple ways. It's not overly pretty with Dunaway being split from the rest of the Findlay zone, but it's currently that way as it is. So you would have that whole green side out to the eastern side of our district, so Clift, Elementary 10, or Jimmy Ray, and Felty all going to Howard, Dunaway, Northside, and Simpson going to Findlay, and then Marvin and Coleman, or Marvin and Wedgeworth and Shackelford going to Coleman. Those students who go to Wildman, they go back to their original home campus for junior high purposes. So if you are originally zoned to go to Marvin and you go to Wildman, then you would follow the Marvin feeder pattern for junior high and you would go to Coleman. So with that last plan, the top model or the top graph shows you kind of where we are in terms of junior high forecasted growth and enrollment. You do see that in 29-30 is when we think we're going to start hitting some capacity issues, and that's at the Coleman campus currently. You'll remember to the 17,000 student plan that we're not looking to construct a junior high at this point, that's going to be in phase 2. And that's because we really don't have a ton of junior high pressure at this point. If you look at the redone elementary plan, which then feeds the junior highs, we don't really solve a junior high problem. We kick the can for 1 year. We kick it to 2030, 2031 before we start having those enrollment pressures at any of our junior highs. Our campuses are a little bit more balanced by the time we get to, say, the 28, 29, 29, 30, 30, 31 school years in terms of enrollment across the board. Immediately, 24, 25, you would see a decrease in enrollment at Coleman. And that's because that campus has a lot of future homes and development coming into that zone. So we expect that zone to pick up significantly as those houses are built and the students are moving in. Interesting of note, Coleman in 24-25 would have the lowest enrollment. It would also hit capacity first in 2030, 2031, just highlighting that growth, expected growth of those students. Want to take you to the economic disadvantage report. So right now, we have about a 3-point spread between Findlay, our most economically disadvantaged, at 52% of the enrollment, and Howard, the least, at 49.5%. So not a really large spread in any of the 3 junior highs, but with the proposed rezoning, you're looking at a 1% spread from top to bottom between the 3 junior highs as a collective. So Coleman being your least economically disadvantaged at 50.6, and Findlay your most economically disadvantaged at 51.6. So it's pretty good distribution of our economically disadvantaged population, which would match pretty much our district as a whole at our junior high level. So let me pause right there. Everything from here forward, we're talking more about future planning. So I can go back to maps, we can look at charts, however you would like to go. I would like to answer your questions or concerns at this point with the elementary or junior high zones as we've kind of talked about them. And stall to get a drink of water.
I just hope we're continuing the conversations with the city as far as negotiating with developers, because land is just going to be crazy hard to come by.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to have to force their hand and put that pressure on them, or we're going to be in big trouble as far as land goes. I mean, we got a name for number 11 without even having a place to put it. So.
Yes, sir.
That would be my recommendation, and just having those conversations. And I know they're aware and they do their best, but just keeping that fire going, I think, is key.
These proposed rezoning maps, have they been made available to the public, specifically the ones that it's going to impact the most?
No, sir, not at this point. So this has been us just as a collective group looking at where are the holes, where can we improve, what can we do better. At this point, wanted to make it available to you so that you could have a chance to look at them as well and give us some feedback. And then we start some town hall meetings with the public in January. And so there will be 2 different town halls, one on a Tuesday, one on a Thursday. At that point, we will definitely solicit their feedback and input as well. Okay. I've caught my breath and taken a drink. Let's go on to future planning. Mr. Rogers, to your point, Jet Elementary. So I'm here to tell you we're looking at it. We're trying to figure out, but it's not just a look at. We're getting serious on having those conversations with developers to try to identify some land of where it could go. huge if, big asterisk. If the plans were to be approved as presented tonight with no changes, I would tell you we would probably need to be looking in the Shackelford and Wedgeworth zones, kind of where those are coming together, more the north and the western side of our district, because that's where I'm seeing significant pressure going forward. I'm looking at 3,000 students by 2033, 34 in those zones, the way they're currently drawn up. So if I got to go out there and just pick some land, I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere in that Shackelford, Wedgeworth zone, probably closer to the line between those two, because that's where I see the biggest pressure coming as a district. I could also see some pressure in the zones between Clift and Jimmy Ray Elementary. It's not going to go away just because we put an elementary out there in Saddlebrook. We're still going to have some pressure. We're still going to have to look at exactly when does that make sense as a district to explore another campus in that area.
I'll just say on that point, I took my father-in-law yesterday afternoon out to see the progress at Jimmy Ray, and I was pointing out all of those side streets that are about to be new streets and just how much development is going on around Jimmy Ray. That Broadhead Road area where we're going to shuffle folks down to Jimmy Ray potentially, that won't last long because they'll fill up Jimmy Ray around it. It's unreal.
Yes, sir. I'm not as concerned between Clift and Dunaway zones. I know that's a significant number, but with the land that the board has already purchased for Comprehensive High School number 2, there's enough acreage for a junior high and another elementary, which would almost sit right on the boundary between Clift and Dunaway. So that ball is already kind of in motion and already in the air. It's not a super immediate need, but it is one that we will get to, and it will give the district some relief between those two zones. So right now I would tell you that I believe our most significant concern is going to be between Shackelford and Wedgeworth. If we start seeing additional movement in the Emery Lakes, Old Kemp Ranch development, then it 100% would be the Wedgeworth zone as we start getting there. But just right now, with what we know today, to me, Shackelford and Wedgeworth, somewhere between those two zones to take some of the pressure off is where we probably need to be looking as a district for land from a developer or to purchase. That would also take a little bit of pressure off that Simpson zone as we shift zones around, especially from Shackelford. We can pull Shackelford down even more into that Simpson zone, which would really help those three campuses looking long-term as a possible site. So nothing definitive at this point, definitely, but that's where we're kind of looking. That's where we're having those conversations and trying to reach out to developers to make sure that we're still a part of the conversation and so that we can long-term do what's best for our district. Any questions or input on that one? And I'm fully here to tell you, I may be completely reading that wrong, and we might need to put an elementary somewhere else, but those are really big numbers in 33, 34 that I'm looking at to try to solve with a future elementary site. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned Emery Lake, where are we, or what is the city on that? I said you mentioned Emery Lake. Where is the city on that? I mean, because it and Kemp Ranch.
Ms. Kriegel, in all honesty, I haven't heard a whole lot of anything about it in well over a year. So I know that there was a planning discussion, there was some zoning talk out there, but I haven't heard a whole lot of movement about it at all since that point. And so it's still on the table for future development and growth, but it has not accelerated, to my knowledge, to where we are strongly concerned and starting to look at putting an elementary in that Emery Lakes development at this point, because it's still, you're not seeing the infrastructure go in, you're not seeing, you know, the timeline of houses being delivered in that area moving forward, or we're not really getting close to those original timelines either.
Okay, I just
That's
wondered.
what I was gonna say.
They're
They're a long, long ways away because the utilities are not serviceable at this point.
So right now, it's not a big factor, it's not in play, but it is something to keep in the back of our heads as we go forward. Realistically, looking at the numbers that Emery Lakes is proposing that their development is going to have. It's going to likely have 6 to 7 elementary schools, probably 2 or so junior highs and its own high school. At the time it was originally talked about, and they were coming to talk to the district about it, literally the number of people they were talking about would double the population of the city of Waxahachie. And so it'd be a significant change for us, a significant mover of people and facilities, but as of right now, I don't want to tell you it's stuck in neutral, but it sounds like it's stuck in neutral. All right, so next future planning, freshman center. Given what we've seen with these zoning maps and what was brought up at the last board meeting, thought we would have a conversation about freshman center. So the original plan, this was going to be the summer of all summer for summer moves. We were going to just have so much fun trying to move 5 campuses at the same time and keep it all straight. And we advised you at the last meeting that it was our plan to kind of hit pause and slow that down a little bit. That with Jimmy Ray Elementary, we're still going to move into Jimmy Ray this summer. But we know Wildman's not going to be ready this summer, so we're going to slow that down a little bit and move into Wildman in the Christmas or winter break of 24. So that will push everything back a little bit. So when Wildman vacates the TC Wildman building, then we know that it gets backfilled with Global High School. And so we know then Global is leaving the Hancock building, which the Coleman Junior High will move into from the Coleman building. And so we're still anticipating that Coleman will not leave the Coleman building until the summer of 25. We're not anticipating that the Coleman building would be available for a freshman center until the summer of 25 for the 25-26 school year. So as confusing as all that is, because it's buildings and campuses, and here we go, I've tried to keep it all straight in my head, so we'll see if I succeeded. Freshman center originally was going to operate for 3 school years. It was going to be 24-25, 25-6, 26-7, but we know that those are not possible at this point. So our revised plan, the Coleman Junior High would move into the Hancock building in the summer of 25. This would allow for the creation of freshman center at the current Coleman building. We can also call that the old high school if that makes it easier for us to all be on the same page with what building we're talking about. This would give the freshman center the ability to operate for 2 school years, the 25-6 and 26-7 school years on that campus. So why a freshman center? First and foremost, the expected total high school enrollment. Now this is with the numbers for Global High School already pulled out. So this is just comprehensive high school numbers that we're talking about. It's projected to go from 3,150 for this school year, which we're pretty close to. That was our projected number. We're pretty close to it. To 26.7 to 3486. So you're looking at about 330 students during that time period. If you've been out to that campus, if you've been out to WHS, you would know that 330 more students out there might seem like 3,000 more students out there. But we can always develop a plan to address that as we go. A freshman center would allow principal and staff time to form a cohesive working relationship that would strengthen the opening of a new comprehensive high school. I am looking forward to in January when I don't have to keep calling it Comprehensive High School number 2. But anyway, that's another song for another day. A freshman center will allow freshmen to transition from junior high to high school in a pool of their peers. So it would be a homogeneous group that would allow them, time to continue to develop and make those relationships as they move from 3 distinct different junior highs into 1 high school setting. And also allows for the incremental addition of positions instead of a significant addition all in 1 fiscal year. So right now I'm looking in, and this is just called in math on a page. I currently think it's going to be about $2.3 million a year in terms of additional staff for every year that freshman center would be open. So I'm looking at, that's for a 9th grade campus. That's not 9-10, that's just a 9th grade. By the time you get through the office staff, you get through the specials, non-repeatable teachers, so we're looking at a band director and a choir director and a theater director, et cetera, core content teachers, aides. That is not with a real robust guess for special settings or special education, because I don't know what those numbers would need. It would depend on student population. But I'm also looking at some one-time addition of or renovation of spaces already in that building. So when we left that campus last time, we pretty much left CTE the way it was, and we need to be doing some update work. That is going to happen, whether it's a 3-year freshman center, a 2-year freshman center, or a 1-year freshman center. The only way of avoiding those costs would not be having a freshman center. On the other side of that coin, not having a freshman center, and I didn't make a slide to this, but not having a freshman center, some of these costs are still going to be incurred even at WHS. There's still going to have to be additional spaces created, classes offered. We would likely be looking at additional assistant principals, counselors, teachers, security officers, custodial staff, child nutrition staff, and definitely would be looking into the purchase of portable buildings. Portable buildings, you may remember, generally a cost inflow or a cost outflow of about $100,000 a building, a cost recovery of about $0. When you're done with it, you pretty much move it off for maybe $1,000. So it's not a significant amount that we would recover off of that, but just kind of making sure we're all on the same page as it relates to freshman center. I'm going to pause there. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So one thing I want to add on this why a freshman center slide, and we didn't include this as a bullet, but it's one that I think is relevant to discuss, is while we are adjusting currently our timeline to delay the opening of a freshman center by 1 year, we are still following our 17,000 student plan that we adopted back in February. And I'm really of a mind that that's a really big deal for our community. I think we need to, I really would recommend and urge the board to hold tight to what we said we were going to do, because that will be our #1 selling point on future bonds is, hey, we did exactly what we told you we were going to do. We had to adjust the time frame as far as opening that particular building, but we did exactly what we said we were going to do, as I did 76 presentations. So.
So at our last meeting, when we talked about this, I think I was pretty clear that I just didn't think those numbers warranted opening a freshman center. I've been on the record to say that I despise portable buildings. That stance hasn't changed. But the discussion was also, we've already got 2 at Simpson that we're not going to be using anymore, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I don't know how many more we would have to purchase. But I just have heartburn. I mean, literally, we're opening a new campus, an existing campus, but with a new freshman center in it for 300 kids. And you said a little over $2 million. I suspect by the time it was all said and done, that number would probably be significantly higher than that. You know, I've got some other questions of where do our cosmetology kids go? Where do our welding kids go? Where do our culinary arts kids go? You know, I've been pretty up forward that I'm not in favor of busing either. It just gives me a lot of heartburn, and I understand your point on this is what we told the voters, but if you went and told the voters we had a plan and we had to make some changes to this plan, and oh, by the way, the plan's going to save you $1 million, $2 million, I'd be willing to bet our taxpayers could probably swallow a change in the plan based on those numbers. I could be wrong. That's my opinion. I'm 1 of 7.
I do want to clarify one thing. When I say 2.3 million, I mean per year. So for a 2-year freshman center, that I'm estimating about 4.5 million, 4.7 million in terms of just payroll for that facility being open. Now, I do anticipate with the opening of a comprehensive second high school, not having that freshman center is going to add probably that same 4.6 million to the budget in 1 year with the staff that you would be hiring at that second comprehensive high school. So it would be a little bit of a stair step into it. Your point, though, is well taken. I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, that $2 million is per year in payroll. It's not for the 2 years total.
Now, I mean, here's another issue. I'm gonna use English as an example. What do we do with, the kid that, I just lost my train of thought.
Maybe an honors kid?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not just that. I have, there are other programs, shall I say, that I just don't see how that's been addressed. I don't.
Yes, sir.
And then you talk about wanting to do upgrades or remodeling the building for 2 years. And then what are we gonna do? It just doesn't make sense to me. I think there's a better option, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
I've got a question, just
Yes, sir.
piggybacking off of something he mentioned. We've done that before, the ninth grade center. I don't really have extensive knowledge of what all was done there, but what did we do logistically with, and I don't know if you were here either, but what did we do with people who were in extracurricular stuff?
Walk across.
I was here and I caught a little bit of the end of the former ninth grade center. The advantage of that ninth grade center was it was literally across Indian Drive from the main high school campus. And so, to President Autry's point, anyone that needed some sort of program or some sort of, whether it's enrichment or whether it's acceleration, in the opposite campus, it was a quick walk across the street. Now, it did create us some concerns and some hazards. Walking students across the street is not, it's as you would expect it to go when they're teenage students. And the traffic does not always obey the idea of the pedestrian and the crosswalk having the right of way. But that was unique to that setting, and this would not be like that. This would pose its own challenges because they are not across the street. They are separated by a good 6-minute drive, if you're lucky. And so that would be definitely something to work through for that freshman center.
What I was referring to, so let's say that you have a sophomore at Waxahachie High School who happened to not pass the freshman English. What are you gonna do with that kid? There's more than one.
Yeah, so you would have to address remediation and retaking courses at WHS. You'd have to offer, with our WHS teachers, you would have to offer English 1 as a remediation. And to your point, there's no way that every single thing that we're offering right now at WHS, that we could do it without any kind of transportation whatsoever. And so, and we've had some of those discussions, but Dr. Averett and, Dr. Beneker and others have begun the process of making some plans for that. The lion's share of the things that our kids take as freshmen are the same thing other freshmen take, the lion's share of it. But there are going to be some cases where you've got Dusty Autry, who's a stud basketball player, and coach wants him there. And so that's a situation where we would absolutely have to figure out a way for transportation. So.
To Dr. Hollingsworth's point, freshman center does not make WHS freshman free. It would not make them freshman free of freshman level people. It would not make them freshman free of freshman level courses. You would still have freshman level remediation courses. You would still have those outstanding freshmen that could be on that campus for any number of programs.
The only thing that really pops out in my mind when we look at the numbers was, and this is from 23, 24 forward, and I don't know if y'all remember Ms. Harris in a meeting the previous school year was asked, we're not totally at capacity yet. And she said, we are there, like there was no room anywhere. And so I don't know, I have hesitancy just stuffing that thing full of more kids. And I don't know the logistics behind using portables either, how much relief that would give, but I don't know.
Generally, your portable buildings likely are going to give you somewhere between 80 and 100 students per portable.
And we already have 2.
We have 2. The first 2 are free. They're on us.
Okay.
Let me rephrase. They are not free. They will cost to move and set up. They are on us. We're not buying the first 2 portables. But yes, sir, that is our initial goal, is to take the 2 that are at Simpson, move them to WHS, and that would give us 2. Off the top of my head, if asked how many would we possibly need with almost 3,500 students, wise me would defer and say, I don't know, let me run a calculator tape and get back to you, but I'm going to, off the top of my head, shoot and say probably 6 to 7.
But is that gonna cost more than $2+ million a year for moving over the freshman center? Probably not.
Realistically, no. By the time you do that all in, all done, you're probably looking at close to 800,000, because those portable buildings are one-time cost. It's not the recurring cost. Now, you will have the recurring cost of the personnel unit that's in them, but that's, at that point, it's a sunk cost either way. It's either a personnel unit at WHS or freshman center. So all in, all done, you're probably looking at a, economic avoidance of closer to $4 million with adding of the additional portables over that 2-year period at WHS as compared to the freshman center. That's called in math, so it is 100% subject to change, but it is just kind of my best guess at the moment.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So how many kids would that take? I mean, what's an estimation of how many kids it would take off the high school campus if we did it that?
Purely, if we go off of the false assumption that all freshmen would be off campus, about 1,000. If we go off of the assumption that some kids are gonna need to be transported back and forth, probably something closer to 800. You're gonna have some kids that just have to be at that WHS campus because they're involved in some sort of, CTE that we're not replicating at a freshman center, or they need some other service or some other program that's just not gonna be offered at that freshman center. So my best guess right now, again, would probably be around 800 that would be coming out of that 31 or 33 or 3,500 number.
Well, I can say as a parent who takes my child to and from the campus, I mean, the flip side of all is that, the appealing side to moving to a freshman campus as soon as possible is, the traffic. I mean, and, relieving some of that traffic and the safety issues that are over there. I mean, that's a real concern for
I
me.
don't disagree with you, but I would say that because our freshmen do not drive, you've moved the traffic problem from the side of 287 to the middle of 77, so.
I get it, it's just that,
I'm with you. It does not, it is a not quite as fast traveling road.
speed of traffic,
Yes, ma'am. So, but yes, my only point would be it does not resolve the traffic concerns, it just moves them to a new location.
Probably that has a bigger traffic problem.
I feel like we need to get back to our focus, which is what's best for kids. So in these scenarios, staying there, going here, what's best for kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, safety-wise, I could say that most of those kids are, it might increase the traffic, but most of those kids aren't driving. The kids that are driving are going to that school, and it is dangerous. It is. I mean, I am seriously considering, not letting my kid drive to school. It's dangerous, very dangerous right now.
I have several levels of concern. When we're going to have that campus open longer, it didn't bother me as much, but when it's open a shorter period of time, the investment in the infrastructure there bothers me when we're only going to use it for a couple of years. That CTE building, your numbers aren't right. There's no way you can, I don't mean that as a smart aleck. There's no way you can fix that side of that building for that kind of dollars. It's a wreck. They filled the pipes up with the plumbing pipes up with the concrete down there when they did that. You're not going to have any restrooms. You're gonna have to do a lot of stuff down there. It's a mess. I don't know why they did it. I didn't do it. I don't like busing kids. That gives me heartburn. Taking football kids from WHS to Lumpkins bothers me. It bothers me from WHS to Richards Park. It bothers me. I don't know. I think we need to put some serious thought into this because you're only talking about 2 years. I'd rather have all my eggs where I can hold them and look at them and make sure they're okay than have them scattered out all over the place. Maybe it doesn't work that way. I don't know, but I think there needs to be some serious. I want to see some numbers, serious numbers, and think about it. I think we're getting in a hurry, and I realize it's part of a plan that's well thought out, put together. But like anything else, when you have something of this magnitude and scale of operations, your end point is here and your start point is here, and you're going to go like this to get there. And I am uncomfortable with that. I want to number one, I want to do what's best for our kids first, and I want to do what's best for our taxpayers second. The static costs of teachers and rooms are the same. I don't care where they make the same dollars, whatever building they're at. We're going to see such a huge growth in that over the course of the next few years. It's crazy. The assistant principals that we're going to have to employ, all those costs are built in, whatever building you do it in. And I know you guys are already planning to hire people that you want to put in place in another institution when it opens. But the traffic downtown at the current Coleman is a wreck, just like the traffic out there is a wreck. It's a wreck whatever way you do it.
Thanks, sir.
My 2 cents.
Anyone else?
Board, I appreciate the feedback tonight. This was realistically to get that conversation, Mr. Schoolfield, started, because you're right, it's not something we can run into. It's not something we can rush into. In response to a comment that was made at the previous board meeting, this is us getting this conversation started. We anticipate, oh, sorry, I skipped the pretty graphic. We're making moves. But next steps, realistically, we're going to continue this conversation throughout the spring of '24. We know it's not done. We know we're not asking for any approvals. We're not asking for any additional consideration on it this evening. We know conversations have to happen, but we wanted to have that conversation with you, at least start it, so that we could make sure that we're making good informed decisions and running information that will help you make good informed decisions as well. Next steps, we'll receive feedback from you guys tonight on the rezoning plan. So that was the feedback that we were looking for with those elementary and junior high maps. On Tuesday, January 9th at 6 p.m. at the Fine Arts Center at the Coleman Building, we'll be conducting our first of 2 town hall meetings. On Thursday, the 18th at 6 p.m. at the Fine Arts Center at Coleman, we'll be conducting our second town hall meeting regarding the rezoning plans. Late January, we'll take the feedback that we garnered from those 2 town halls, from staff, from trustees, and we will look at making some modifications and finalizing those plans and bringing the rezoning plans back to you in February at your board meeting for approval, so that we can disseminate that information to the community in plenty of time for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you, Ryan. And I'll add, Mr. President, what we'll do is we will bring back to the board, we'll take some additional feedback from the board, and I'll talk to y'all individually as well. And what we'll do is we can begin to work on options, a couple of options for y'all relative to how to proceed specifically to where freshmen are going to be. And whether or not that's going to be continuing on at WHS, we can look at that plan, and we can also look at an alternative plan as well. And, you know, to your point, sometimes we have to adjust the plans. And so we work at the will of the board, so we'll bring that back to y'all for your consideration January or February. Okay? Thank y'all. Ms. Kriegel, do you have something?
Well, I wanted to go back to the graphic.
You put your mic
Talk
on.
about it, just gonna flip through it. Okay, I had a issue with, moving global in March. I mean, I don't think that that's a good idea, moving a building, a campus in the middle of the year. I don't feel like it's fair to our seniors that have been seniors at the Hancock building for 4 years, and to move them in March, right before they retire, right before they graduate, sorry. Got retirement parties tomorrow. But I just don't feel like it's that's a fair situation, and wondered if we could move that back till the day after school got out. But it may be a moot point with this discussion of the freshman center.
Well, we'll have that conversation with Mr. Zant, and that can be part of our overall planning.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
I think that goes back to, you know, you ask yourself, what's best for kids? Do you want to move kids in the middle of, not even the middle, towards the end of the school year? Or do you wait 2 months and when that impacts 0 children of the move? Just my 2 cents on that part.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. That will conclude our workshop. At this time, the board will convene into closed session according to section 551.001 X of the Texas Government Code. It is now 5 PM. Now 5:48, we're going to reconvene back into open session. At this time, I will ask Mr. Starnader, I believe, to lead us on, Judge, to lead us on our invocation, followed by our pledge of allegiance by the Belen Garrity and Davy Garrity? Bolin, okay, I'm sorry. Almost McCutcheon.
Okay, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for all the blessings you've bestowed upon us, specifically in the Christmas season. We want to thank you for the gift of your son. Please be with everybody within the district as they have Christmas break. Keep them safe and have a good time just gathering with their family. We pray all these things in your son's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Good job, guys. Good job, guys.
Okay, this is the portion of the board meeting where the board receives input from our patrons. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to roll through this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go.
Our vision is to be a district where innovation thrives and growth is limitless.
We value choices because they make us unique and are critical to learning.
We value a collaborative culture that honors and supports all who positively impact the lives of our students.
We value an environment of belonging that respects individual differences and ensures equality for all.
We value relationships that broaden learning experiences and enrich our community. Okay, now, this is the portion of the board meeting where the board receives input from our patrons. Each person who addresses the board will have 5 minutes to speak on his or her issue. Because of posting requirements of the Open Meetings Act, board members will not ask questions of the patron nor answer any questions posed by the patron. No action can be taken on any issue presented during the patron comment section of the board meeting. Patrons addressing the board will be notified when they're approaching the last 60 seconds of their allotted time to speak. When I call your name, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Victoria Nash. Mrs. Nash, please state your name and address for the record, please. Mr. Rogers here will be the timekeeper, and he will let you know when you have approximately 1 minute left, okay?
Okay. Victoria Nash, 1711.
Right here.
Right here. Okay. Victoria Nash, 1711 Salado Trail. Can I pass these out to you guys? Hello everyone, my name is Victoria Nash and I am a Waxahachie Global High School student. I am a senior. Currently, I serve as the Region 3 FCCLA President, and today I'm here to present to you why it's important to support FCCLA in Waxahachie and beyond. To begin, my presentation agenda will be as such. What is FCCLA? Career and workplace preparation. It's focused on family as a basic unit of society. Personal developments I have achieved through FCCLA, and our current chapter accomplishments. FCCLA stands for Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. We are a national, nonprofit organization that is student-led, that promotes family consumer sciences and related education. Our core values are as such: to provide opportunities for personal development and for preparation for adult life, to strengthen the function of family as a basic unit of society, to encourage democracy through cooperative action, and to promote family consumer sciences and related occupations. It has profound workplace and career preparation. We have 4 main tracks in FCCLA. We have human services, which can include healthcare or social work, hospitality and tourism, which can include culinary arts or hotel managing, education and training, which could be administration as yourself or teachers, and visual arts and design, which can be multimedia content producers or fashion designers. We have big impacts in FCCLA. Currently, we have 81% of our members having a 3.0 GPA or higher, myself included. We have 13+ million scholarships that are provided annually to students and community, and 17 million, I will repeat that for you, 17 million members of the community have been positively impacted through FCCLA's community service projects and student-led programs. It is the only career and technical organization that is in school that has family as its basic focus. On your pictures, you see me and the rest of the FCCLA officer team. They have become like a family to me, and through their support and the opportunities they provide, I have grown to love this newfound family. My personal developments. I have had career and training experience. I went for a week-long camp in Navasota that taught me etiquette, formal way to lead people, and how to become a better person so I can advocate for those that are in need. Additionally, I've had leadership opportunities. As we all know, I ran last year for FCCLA Region President. While I was not expecting the position, it exceeded the possibilities of what I believed I could do and gave me so much confidence to stand here and present this today before you. And connections and friendships. I have grown a network of people that I know that will support me and encourage me to push forward in my career and my community. In conclusion, we also have our chapter involvements. This semester, we have worked very hard on a sweater and coat drive to support Waxahachie Care and those that are cold this winter season. We also have upcoming meetings and event planning for our next semester. And lastly, conference preparation. My duties as Region 3 President go beyond just here in Waxahachie. I am responsible for representing Waxahachie on a larger scale. Additionally, FCCLA allows me to connect with multiple people to do things like preside over executive council meetings, to organize conferences, and to lead community service projects on a larger scale. In conclusion, I hope we all learned some more about FCCLA and how it can help our community and family consumer science related courses. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Victoria, I know the board can't respond on open forum, but I want to just say, and I know I speak for them, you did an exceptional job, and you have a fantastic future in front of you, and you do represent Waxahachie very, very well. What's your plan next year?
So my plan next year is to attend University of Texas at Austin and major in philosophy so that I can eventually become a lawyer.
Well, you made some people in the room happy with that answer. Great job. Thank you so much.
Okay, at this time, board, if you will turn your attention to action item D, which will be consideration of possible action to hire the principal for Findlay Junior High.
I'll go ahead. That's fine, Monica. I'll go ahead and make the recommendation. Mr. President and members of the board, it is my pleasure to recommend to you for hire tonight Mr. Ray Blanco. I have known Mr. Blanco for about 7 years. First as a student of mine in his classes at Dallas Baptist University, as a teacher in Burleson ISD. He has a lot of experience in working with junior high and high school age students. Most recently, he has been the principal at Ferris Junior High School. I wanted to read a few of the comments from our committee as we went through the process. I like Ray. He commands the room. He had specifics. He instantly gave me confidence. He is a systems guy. He is strategic about getting folks on board. He understands people. He provided the why, not just telling us what to do. He has experience with curriculum, particularly in working with PLC and the teacher incentive allotment. He mentioned sitting down to eat with kids to get to know the culture of the campus. Mr. Blanco is not only an exceptional school leader, he is trilingual. He is fluent in English and Spanish and Italian, and he's quadlingual because he's also fluent in ASL. So we are just very pleased to bring to the board tonight the recommendation to hire Mr. Ray Blanco as our next principal at Findlay Junior High School.
Okay, at this time, board, I will entertain a motion to approve action item D.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Kriegel,
Second.
second by Mrs. Timberland. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, Mr. Blanco.
Can I get him to introduce his family? Is that all right? Yeah, that's fine. Mr. Blanco, why don't you come forward, if you don't mind? I know you have a couple of folks you'd like to introduce, and so if you want to introduce your family.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Dr. Hollingsworth, for this amazing opportunity. I can't tell you how stoked I am to be working at home. I live here in Waxahachie, 108 Tioga Circle, and I live there with my beautiful wife, Lizzie Blanco, and also Sophia Ray Blanco, who's waving at everybody. So I'm glad to be, I'm an active member of the community, and I'm glad to be working here at Findlay Junior High School, where I can continue to contribute to the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to action item E, be consideration of possible action to hire the Director of Support Services.
Mr. President, I'm also pleased to bring another recommendation to the board this evening, and that is to recommend Mr. Andy Reeves to be our Director of Support Services. One of my mentors used to always say that you interview for a job every day that you go to work. And anybody who has the privilege of being able to work with Andy Reeves will tell you that he interviews for this job each and every day. Mr. Reeves epitomizes what it means to be a servant leader. He is always willing to get his hands dirty, to be right there with the people. He would always say, not those who work for him, but those who work alongside him. And he reflects that in every single thing that he does. His interactions with me are always positive, but what I love about Mr. Reeves, his interactions with every member of this organization are always positive, and he exemplifies everything we want to see in a leader. And so we are so pleased to make recommendation, Mr. Andy Reeves to be our next Director of Support Services.
Okay, board, at this time, I entertain a motion to approve action item E as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Starnetter,
Second.
second by Mr. Rogers. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words. I'd like to introduce the people that mean the most to me, if y'all don't mind. Katrina, my wife, my youngest Jace, and my oldest Luke. They're the ones that I live for, and I just want y'all to know that I don't take this position lightly. This is something that I really care about, and I care about this district, and we'll do whatever we can to serve it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 6 with our public hearing. Tonight, we'll conduct a public hearing regarding the 2022-2023 first rating. First rating for WISD. Following the presentation, we will invite the public to approach the podium and provide input on the subject at hand. The public hearing will begin with a presentation by Chief Financial Officer Ryan Calder.
Thanks, sir. Tonight, we are doing the 22-23 first rating. It is always a little bit confusing because it's based off of the 21-22 financial data. It is a requirement in the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 19. FIRST is an acronym. It's the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. You have 4 possible awards: superior, above standard, meet standard, or substandard. There are 20 indicators, and like I say, it is based off previous year financial information. Give you some context statewide. There's 1,018 districts. 99.21% of the districts passed, so they at least achieved a meet standard rating or a C rating. And there were 8 districts that did not pass, so a little less than 0.8%. 90% of the districts, or 919 of them, earned a superior rating. That's up from 882 the prior year. 50 districts, or a little under 5%, received an above standard. That is down almost in half from the previous year of 94. 41 districts, or 4%, met standard. That is up a little bit over the previous year of 35. And 8 districts, again, earned a substandard achievement, and that's the same number from the previous year. There are 5 pass-fail indicators. If you do not pass all 5 of these, you will earn a substandard rating. The district passed all 4 of them that were evaluated for the 21-22 fiscal year. That asterisk next to number 5 tells me that it was not rated as part of the first report. Indicator 6, I should pause at this point and tell you, board, you have a copy of the first report at your spot that is bound. Public who are here, there's a copy of it over on the table if they would like to inspect. It will also be up on the website tomorrow if anybody would like to see it. Okay, back to it. Indicator 6, our fund balance. We should not have seen a reduction in fund balance of 25% or more. The district did not see a reduction in fund balance. We saw a 1.7% increase in fund balance from the previous fiscal year, so we earned the 10 possible points. We also earned the 10 points available in this category the previous year. Indicator 7, a number of days of cash on hand. This is to determine how much cash the district has as the ability to respond to reduced property tax receipts or TEA payments and continue operations. The district earned 8 points out of a possible 10, is very consistent with what we earned in the 21-22 rating. We did see our number of days of cash on hand reduced from 87.8 days to 82.6 days. So we are working on making sure that we have sufficient cash on hand so that we can meet operational requirements. Indicator 8, the ratio of current assets, current liabilities. The district earned 6 points in this category, which is an improvement from the previous year. We have done a better job of reducing those liabilities at the end of the fiscal year to make sure that we have those paid off. The goal is a ratio of 3. Our ratio result was 2.3. So we're getting closer to that ratio of 3 for full points, but this year we earned 6 out of a possible 10. Indicator 9 is general fund revenues exceed expenditures, so they want to see that you are intentionally adding money to fund balance. If you are not, then were your cash on hand greater than 60 days? So the district did have revenues greater than expenditures. We also had cash on hand greater than 60 days. So either way, we would have earned 10 points. In the previous year, we also had revenue exceeding expenditures and cash on hand greater than 60 days. We earned 10 points in both years. Indicator 10, a budget variance to actual. This has been a new indicator that was put in 21-22 fiscal year, but it wasn't scored that year. It still has not been scored yet. So we're waiting on specific details on the measurement focus from TEA on this particular indicator, but it was not scored last year and it was not scored this year. Indicator 11, long-term liabilities to total assets. This is a challenge in growing districts, but there is also good news, I guess, on our end. we were able to meet the expectations of the calculator and earn the full 10 points. It is something that we could struggle with, ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets. We have a lot of debt that's going to be on the books shortly. By the time all 574 million of bonds are issued, we will have projects that will be completed with the construction projects that will also go on the books under total assets, but as those get depreciated, this could become a problem for the district in the long run. I don't anticipate it being a problem because we have a pretty healthy debt retirement schedule. We're not pushing everything off 40 years into the future, but just to let you know, this could be something for the district to look into as we continue to grow. We need to monitor this piece. Indicator 12 is, does the tax base support future debt service payments? We have a healthy tax base and a healthy growth in our tax base, so we earned 8 points in this category. It's the same 8 points that we earned previously, so it's a good indicator of the size and the strength of the district in terms of we're not exceeding our population with excessive development and growth and building of buildings. Indicator 13, this is one that as a district we always have to be mindful of. This is the administrative cost ratio, so it's a function of how much of your expenditures are being spent on administrative services versus instructional services. The district spent about 8.4% of our expenditures on administrative cost. That is down, which is a good thing. So it was about 8.5% in the 21-22 rating. It's down to 8.4% in the 22-23 rating. That does earn the full points. But I want to point your focus to that ADA number. That ADA number is about 9,300 students in ADA. When we hit 10,000, the threshold for full points drops down. Currently it's 10%. It would drop to 8.5%. So we are under it, but it is an area that we need to continue to watch as we grow as a district. Indicator 14 is a ratio of student to staff. So it's looking at the staff-student ratio. Was there a decline in students per staff member of greater than 15% over a 3-year period? The asterisk tells me that this was not scored this year. It is, I don't know exactly when it's going to be put back in, but it is something that TEA has said was not scored for the 22-23 rating year. Also, indicator 15, this is a function of how accurate are the projected demographic reports that we receive, not only externally, but submit to the Legislative Budget Board for the legislative session. This was also not scored. I would tell you ours are pretty accurate when we submit them, but this was not scored by TEA. Indicator 16, how does our audit report compare to the PEMS information that we submit? This is to make sure that our auditors are actually auditing the books that we're submitting to TEA. We had a variance of $1,400, which is 0% of our total expenditures for the year. That was well within the 3% variance that TEAs allow, so we did earn the full 10 points on this one. Indicator 17 was the annual financial report free of material weaknesses and internal controls. There were no findings, there were no material weaknesses or deficiencies in internal control. There have not been in the 10 years that I've been here, so we've earned the full points every time. Same thing with indicator 18 was the annual financial report free of material noncompliance. We've complied with all grant requirements and other legal obligations, and so there are no findings related to this, so we earn the full 10 points on that indicator as well. Indicator 19, have we posted the required financial information? Yes, we've posted that. We earned the full 5 points. And indicator 20, did we have a discussion within 120 days of you adopting the annual financial budget regarding property values and what that does to tax rates? If you remember, we have that discussion usually with the third budget draft, budget workshop, and so we do that roughly the end of July, the beginning of August, well in time for you to have that knowledge when you're approving the budget at the end of August. So it was a new indicator last year. We were compliant then. We were compliant again this year. In all, that was pretty quick, but in 21-22, For the first rating, we earned 90 out of a possible 100 points, and we earned a superior rating. For the rating that we're in now, 22-23, we earned 92 out of a possible 100 points, so we did improve a little bit in a couple of categories, and we, again, earned a superior rating. We passed all 5 pass-fail indicators, and since these ratings were instituted in the 2000 to 2003 school year, Waxahachie ISD has earned a superior rating every year except for one. In 2014-15, it was a pass-fail only. There was no differentiating in the rating, so every year the superior's been available, Waxahachie ISD has earned a superior rating in the first rating. With that, it is a public hearing. Turn it back over to you, Mr. President, for public comments.
Okay, at this time, are there any individuals that wish to speak concerning the 2022-2023 first rating for WISD? Once, twice? Okay, we will now close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, moving on to item 8, will be our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I do each month, I want to give you the update on our enrollment and ADA as we rounded out the month of November. You can see that our enrollment on November 30th was 11,097 students. Our average daily attendance percentage was at 94.5%. This is still not where we want it to be overall, but we are up from last year. We're not quite over or back up to our pre-COVID percentages, but we did improve from last year to this year with that regard. I wanted to share with y'all too a couple of, part of our vision is to be a district where innovation thrives. And I wanted to share with you about our Student Spaceflight Experiments program. You've heard a little bit about this over the last few months, but I wanted you to be aware that it continues to progress. We have all of our WISD 6th grade science students participated in SSEP. Those students were tasked with designing a proposed real microgravity project. We have narrowed that down to 6 final teams, and on December 4th at Waxahachie High School, a week ago tonight, we celebrated those 6 finalist teams. And we have several. I want to just read a couple of them to you. Howard Junior High, under Ms. Dominy, has a group of students, Caden Holmquist, Coralie Holloway, Levi Lewis, and Katie Smith. What is the effect of microgravity on dandelion growth? Another one from Findlay Junior High was Ashley Dawson was the teacher. Students Peyton Dews, Karis Gray, and Olivia Jones, tardigrade growth in space. And then Coleman Junior High had one, I don't know this word, Longicaudus adaptations in microgravity. And that was Jeff Lynham and his students, Savannah Allen, Avi Hurd, and Marcus Malone. All of the 6 finalist teams, we will narrow that to 2 winning teams from WISD. And those students' microgravity projects will have the opportunity to go up onto the International Space Station. And that's why you have a picture there of the ISS. It'll be launched in Florida. Those students, along with their teacher and their principal, will get to go to Florida to see the launching of the SpaceX rocket, to take their microgravity projects into space. Between now and the time that the launch takes place, our students will work with physics professors at the university level to refine their microgravity projects. So just a phenomenal opportunity for our kids. I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Binnicker, Melissa Abity, Sabrina Ballard, Ashley Sierri, Joy Cook, Barbara Michalewski, Sarah Picard, Teresa Smithy, Megan Whitford, and all of our teachers that participated at all 3 of our junior highs. It's a really, really cool opportunity for our kids. The other thing that you need to know about is, along with that, you see there the circle picture that's got the W on it, that's an example of a patch design. So literally thousands of our kids from pre-K all the way through 12th grade have been able to also participate in the patch design contest. And so 2 patches will go up on the space station with our 2 winning projects. So it's a pretty cool opportunity. 38 schools in the world are participating in this particular program, none in Ellis County other than WISD. So that's a pretty cool distinction. Yeah. Another one that we celebrated last week, and a couple of y'all were able to be there to participate with this, is the Jobs and Education for Texans grant. We are a JET grant recipient through the Texas Workforce Commission. We received $318,518 for the purchase and installation of equipment to train students in high-demand professions. In this case, that's in health science. And so the students in our programs at Marvin Biomedical Academy, Waxahachie Global High School, and Waxahachie High School will all benefit from the installation, and I don't know any other way, this is state-of-the-art medical equipment that will be made available to our health science students at all 3 of those campuses to really be able to prepare them for what they'll experience at any hospital in the United States. And so because of the JET grant, our kids are really going to get training that is second to none as you compare it to other districts and other places. I'm going to give a special shout out to Ashley Beneker and also to Danielle Bays, who did a phenomenal job in making sure that all of our ducks were in a row for this particular JET grant. And so just thank you for all of y'all's hard work. So really well done. Yeah, we can applaud that. That's good. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then finally, I wanted to share with the board our revised plans for our professional learning in January, whenever our teachers return from Christmas break. We typically do iNation on a single day, but Dr. Beneker and his team have been working hard with principals to adjust our professional learning for those 3 days. We know that priority 2 on our balanced scorecard is to honor and support staff. And based directly on campus feedback that we've received as I did campus rounds on all of our campuses, as we've heard from our principals when we meet them on a monthly basis, we wanted to alter our typical iNation plans. And this will allow our TLI team to directly support teachers in the implementation of high-quality instructional materials and our district-adopted resources. It spreads the teacher learning out over a 3-day period. And so most teachers, for example, will take 2 hours on one day, may take 4 hours on the next day, and have a work day the next day. But you have an example here of our 4th grade. These are your 4th grade math, science, or reading language arts track. And so on January 4th, they'll have an 8 to 10 o'clock session. And on January 5th, they'll have a 1:15 to 3:15 session. So that means that the rest of the day on January 4th, the rest of the day on January the 5th, and all of January 6th, those math and science teachers will be able to work in their classrooms or work with their PLC at their own discretion. But I wanted to give you all an example of how it is that our TLI team has adjusted as we've been looking at the implementation of our high-quality instructional materials. So really well done, Dr. Beneker, to your team. So please pass along our kudos for that. So that concludes our superintendent's report.
Any questions, board? Okay. Report B, informational report on WISD balanced scorecard priority 1.4 student growth. Dr. Averitt?
Yes, sir. President Autry and board and Dr. Hollingsworth, thank you. As promised, tonight we're coming to bring you a informational report on balanced scorecard priority 1.4, which is a part of priority 1, which is our student growth priority. But priority 4 is focuses on increasing student involvement in extracurricular CTE and fine arts and athletic activities. So I do have with me a couple of my colleagues, Mr. Cagle, my Director of Fine Arts, and Mrs. Binnicker, our CT Director tonight, and they'll take over in just a moment. Also, and Coach Womack couldn't be with us today. He has another meeting. He couldn't make it. So one of our main goals is to annually increase student involvement in extracurricular UIL co-curricular. One of the things that we do is biannually complete student and parent surveys related to current programs and other enrichment activities. We will do that this spring. We did it a couple of years ago. This is a way we can find out, are there things that we're not offering that you would like for us to offer? And we want to get that feedback from our students. This is also, yes,
Dr.
sir.
Avery, I want to point out to the board that practice of surveying students for interest in new athletics programs is a really healthy Title IX practice as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And that absolutely. And so we'll look forward to seeing what they tell us this spring, and see if there's things that we can offer that we're not offering, or we can maybe offer later on. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to, let's see, first, no, I'll take this because it's about athletics. So we want to use student enrollment data to monitor and evaluate our participation. Our athletics, career, and technology, education, and fine arts, they collaboratively analyze enrollment data. It's nice to have Mrs. Binnicker and Mr. Cagle so close together out there, because I know they work together a lot on these types of reports. And they're actually in the process of building more reports so they can get that information easier, so that it's more at their fingertips. So when we look at athletics, for example, what we can see for 22-23, we're at about 910 students involved, male and female. This is a progression since 2017. Right now we're at 878. However, our rosters for our spring sports are not yet set. And we know that a lot of these rosters for things like baseball, softball, soccer, those are not unlimited rosters, right? You can't have 40 varsity baseball players. You're going to have a certain number of them. Same thing with softball. What we're looking at to make sure, do we have 3 teams, a freshman, JV, or varsity? But as those rosters get set, obviously that number is going to increase. Now I'm going to turn this over to Ashley Binnicker to talk about high school enrollment in CTE courses.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Dr. Hollingsworth. As you can see here, this graph is going to show you 2 numbers. The first of which is a unique student. So that's all of our humans that are in the building. The second is going to be a total enrollment. So let's say that Mr. McCutcheon wants to be a welding business owner. He might be in a welding class and also taking business classes at the same time, so that he's learning both sides of the trade. So he would only count as 1 unique student, but he would count as possibly 2 enrollments. So what you see here is a progression from 2020 to 2024. You can see a steady increase in both categories, but right now, enrollments between global and WHS, we are at about 5,000, which is exciting, and really just puts into perspective how much we've grown. We are also at about 3,000 students total for WHS and global. Does anybody have questions about this slide? I'd also like to point out that we have 21 programs of study between the 2 high schools. We have 113 different CTE courses that we offer. Among the 51 CTE teachers that we have, 45 of those being at the high schools, we cover 273 class periods. So that's where all of those students are sitting. Okay. Next is our junior high enrollment. So I only did junior high enrollment in our CT high school credit courses. So what we offer right now for high school credit is our gateway classes, which are our STEM classes, Principles of Arts AV, and Principles of Ag. Over the last few years, we've had BIM, which is our business management class as well. We've removed that from the junior high to make room for others, but you can see the rapid growth there from offering ag, I think, is what kind of started that growth, but then this year offering the STEM credit courses both at the 7th grade level and the 8th grade level for high school credit, you can see a large increase this year. All right.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Hollingsworth. Very similar story. I know that these are some complicated looking slides, so I'll try and point out some things that may take a little bit more to digging in to get to. But as you can see here, this is high school credit enrollment in fine arts classes. So in a similar conversation as Mrs. Binnicker was talking about, there's unique students and then there's seats per se. So in this particular information, this is seats. So it's total enrollment. So there may be some students that are taking more than one art class or taking choir and band, things like that. But as you can see, no surprise that by and large, the fine arts have been growing over the last several years. The darkest column there, as you can see, is our visual arts class. You may say, well, why did it jump up so drastically there from 21-22 to 22-23? My supposition is that is when we started really pushing our students in 8th grade, because this does include our 8th graders that are taking Art 1 to start taking those classes. And over the last few years, we have been adding visual arts teachers every year. So that has caused a really rapid growth in the visual arts. But I know it's hard to see some of the lower subjects there, but although there is some up and down, by and large, most everything is growing. Band is growing, well, it's staying close to the same. You can see it was kind of high there in 2019-20, but some of our performing arts are really still rebounding from COVID. But as you can see, general growth. And in terms of extracurricular involvement, I did want to point out that just looking at this semester, there have been 64 performances of fine arts groups, plays, concerts, things of that nature, and that's not counting the band and the Charmers, for example, at a football game or a basketball game, so you can imagine how many events that we are having going on. This next slide is talking about unique students over the last few years. And that number at the top in the white box is the total number of unique students in fine arts courses. Again, this is high school credit courses, so it does include 8th graders taking Art 1. Again, an interesting thing to look at is the seniors there going from 216 to 650. Again, I have to do some more digging to figure out why that growth was. My supposition is that coming off of COVID, there were a lot of students, seniors particularly, needing to get some fine art credit or wanting to take advantage of that before they left high school. And finally, talking about junior high, we are growing. I know that's no surprise, but this is just looking from last year to December of this year in the fine arts areas and in our junior highs, and this is across all 3 junior highs, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students in the arts, and it's looking very good. Thank you all very much.
Any questions, Board?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
I had one question. It was about the Lone Star Cup.
Yes.
Is Global, it said WHS, is Global included? Is it a WISD thing, or is it just a Waxahachie High School?
So what we've been looking at for Lone Star Cup is WHS.
Okay, that's what I didn't know.
Athletics and stuff like that.
Right, I
I
understand.
would imagine Global would be in there in the 3A side, but it would be pretty hard for us to make a lot of points because we don't have
Okay.
all the sports.
That's what I didn't understand, if they were combined.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And so if we look at, actually, for 22-23, we were about number 62 out of 240, top 25%. And so, we believe that we're leaving a little bit of some points on the table by not participating in the UIL activities, like robotics, like student congress, like we're adding UIL film back into the mix. We believe we have the kids to pull those to do well in those areas, and so we know that the more points we can get, the better off we'll be in our Lone Star Cup. Yes, ma'am. And kind of a wrap up for athletics for this fall. We had a lot of success this fall. Our volleyball team was a by-district finalist. Our football team was an area finalist, lost a heartbreaker to Rockwall up there in Allen. Our cross-country team was a regional. They made the regional meet and we had a state qualifier. They're also the 11 6A district champions in cross-country, and our tennis team was a by-district finalist this year as well. Okay. And the final thing is, to make sure we try to recruit and retain staff to lead and engage our student activities. As we look at making sure we have sponsors for all of our activities, not so much on the coaching side, where coaches get a stipend, but which we always look at those numbers as well. But at the UIL, the academic UIL piece at the campus level, we want to make sure that we have teams at every campus, and that we make sure that folks find it to be worthwhile to do that work, because it is extra work. It does take time. There are meets that happen either after school or on weekends. And so as we look at the 24-25 budget, we will review our current stipend structure and our co-curricular leaders. And also one of the things that, as we get successful and as we move kids past the district level to the regional level, we need to look at what that might mean as far as student travel and those kind of expenses too. So anybody who thinks it's not expensive to win, it is expensive to win, but it's good for kids, and it gives them those opportunities, those enrichment opportunities that they wouldn't necessarily have. Any questions for me on that piece?
So as long as you're filling in for Coach Womack.
Yes, sir.
Are there any early indications on where we might go in our realignment? I know the numbers came out for the district cutoffs, or
I don't know that I could ever do any prognosticating on that. I think they still use the rubber band method down there in Austin, where they use the rubber bands on the pins. So I couldn't tell you. I know people like to predict that kind of thing, but I don't know that I've ever seen a prediction be really right. I think there's going to be a little shift. Possibly DeSoto might bump down, and that might alter, where we are in this area. But Lancaster's going to go up, so we may just trade one for the other. So. Good question. I wish I had a better answer. Well, we'll know in February.
Well, I know you've been in Austin before.
Yes, sir. I've done it.
That same topic. So.
Yes. Yeah, one of the very few successful appeals. I'm very proud of that.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
All right. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Calden, for priority 4 of our balanced scorecard, which is financial integrity.
So be under report C, the informational report on the WISD balanced scorecard priority 4, financial integrity.
Hello again, board. We'll do our priority 4 update for financial integrity. Remind you of the performance objectives. It's to ensure financial stewardship and transparency, develop and deploy a coherent facility management process to address student growth, and ensure effective and efficient operations with transparency. Our key strategic actions: create and adopt a budget to actual expenditure quarterly comparisons. Our progress measure for that is to prepare a quarterly budget to actual comparison. And a long-term desired outcome is to have campuses and departments utilizing their discretionary allotted budget funds at the rate of 75% by the end of March annually. Our next strategic action is to ensure clarity and transparency regarding the budget development process. We do that with routinely posting updates to the WISD financial transparency and debt web pages, with the goal of obtaining and now maintaining the traditional and debt transparency stars from the Comptroller's office. Our next strategic actions are to update and deploy an annual budget development calendar, and the measure is the actual budget calendar as it's approved. Our goal is to have that presented to you in January, February annually, right in line with kickoff of the actual budget season that we go through. And then our final strategic action is to develop and deploy a 10-year expenditure projection plan. It is our goal to have a complete 10-year expenditure projection plan. We've kind of gone over the expenditure projection plan in the past, but it's our goal, it's our long-term outcome to be a live document by the end of this 23-24 school year. So current progress update on these items. We have calculated and distributed the budget utilization report through the end of October, so that gave us 2 months worth, so that's kind of the first quarter of our year. We've also updated our websites with relevant information to maintain the debt and the traditional finance transparency star. from the Comptroller's Office, so we are a proud holder of both. And we are reconciling the expenditure projection plan with maintenance, child nutrition, and the technology departments. We hope to have it posted at the end of June. We are adding other departments right now, specifically fine arts and athletics, to get a more comprehensive listing. And like I say, our goal is to have that posted at the end of this school year. So it's a long process to go through that, and it is a live document which will replace the whiteboard in my office that tries to keep track of these various things. But it is long and detailed, and given its current state, I did not include it in this report, but we will have that for you as we continue going. Priority 4.2 is develop and deploy a coherent facility management process to address student growth. Our key strategic actions are develop and sustain long-range facilities plan, develop and deploy a long-range or a 10-year plan for facilities, and develop and sustain a bond oversight committee. So our progress measures are a comprehensive review of all district facilities and systems. It is to increase the frequency of our demographic updates to make sure that our 10-year facility plan is still viable, and is to make sure that we have a bond oversight committee in place and that it is operational. Our long-term desired outcome is our expenditure projections and bond programs will be developed around a facilities plan so that we have good input like we did last time with the LRPC. Demographic updates will increase to quarterly or from annual to quarterly by September of 22 and be maintained in that fashion. And then upon successful vote or approval of a bond oversight committee will be established. Current progress, at this point, Mr. Gomez right now is in a role of preparing for any future bond as part of campus oversight and review. So he's currently visiting each campus to inspect every system within a campus. When I say every system, we're talking about the foundation, the walls, the air conditioning, the plumbing, the electrical, along with parking lots, etc. So he's looking at every component of each campus. His goal is to create a detailed report of current condition and recommended actions so that we have a comprehensive plan of campus needs going forward as we look into allocation of available discretionary funds within the budget and for any future bond propositions. Quarterly demographics report, we have increased the frequency from annual to quarterly, and we did receive the most recent one in August of 23. I actually got an email earlier this afternoon when we were in the middle of our workshop for rezoning from the demographer with the next quarterly update. So we'll start unpacking that before we get through the end of this calendar year, and we'll see how that affects any of our plans going forward. And then we will also work with the demographer to get him here to give you an update at the January meeting, if that will work out. If not, we'll do it in February. Bond Oversight Committee has conducted 2 meetings at this point. The minutes are posted online on our website, so anyone interested can go to our main webpage and look under Bond 2023, and they can see the committee members. They can also see the minutes from each meeting that are posted on there. And to steal a plug for Mr. Mott, they can also go see live webcams of each of the projects that are out there. But anyway, that's our commitment to transparency on that front. Their next meeting is going to be Tuesday, February 6th, and that will be at 11:30 here at the administration building. Board kind of wanted to show you the 10-year facility projection plan. You have a larger copy in front of you so that we will all be able to read it a little bit better. I want to start by just mentioning the purple line is phase 2. So the 10-year 17,000 plus student plan was broken up into 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 is the purple line. Anything to the right of the purple line is theoretical in a phase 2 part of that bond. Anything to the left of that line are things that were approved with the passage of propositions A, B, and C in the 2023 bond program. So you'll see that the plan is Jimmy Ray Elementary is being constructed right now with plans to open for 24-25. So yellow is that design, is that construction, and then blue gets us into the actual opening. With Frankie Lujet Elementary, the site is to be determined at this point. We plan, the current plan is to look at starting to construct in 24-25 with opening in 25-26. Right now, there should be a big asterisk next to that. That may or may not happen depending on student growth and student need. So if we don't have the need, we can have the conversation about continuing with that plan, because that would be the most fiscally responsible in terms of getting it constructed, but it may not be the most fiscally responsible in terms of having a half-utilized building sitting there. So it's our plan as we go into it, but we can also refine that as we go forward. Wildman STEAM Academy, plan is to open that in the middle of the 24-25 school year. The junior high renovations, so Hancock renovations, Howard and Finley renovations, all plan to be going simultaneously with those campuses fully renovated by the 25-26 school year. That'll be a summer of transition for us. Comprehensive High School number 2, we have just started kicking the tires on the design phase in that, so we're looking for that campus to open in time for the 27-28 school year. We anticipate that to be closer to a 36-month design and construction process. Also included as part of Proposition A was the identification and procurement of land for future school sites. We are, as we're going through, as we talked about in rezoning, we're looking at where we might need land, and we're also looking at how we can go about hopefully getting that land donated or at a discounted rate, but absolutely knowing that we've got some funds in the bond if we need to go out and purchase those at price. And then at the bottom, you'll see the existing campus repairs and improvements. That's your Proposition C items that are out there, and those are ongoing as we get through this entire process. On the right side of the purple Phase 2, assuming the items from the original LRPC would be approved in Phase 2, we'd be looking for Elementary 12 to be opening for the 29-30 school year, Elementary 13 to be opening for the 32-33 school year, Junior High Campus number 4 to be opening for the 29-30 school year, and that Junior High 4, just as a reminder, would be on property already owned down south of the Senior Center on the same general site in vicinity of Comprehensive High School number 2. And then on the 2023 bond was Proposition D that was not successful, so I am carrying some sort of athletic renovations at Waxahachie High School on this schedule as a topic that we'll have to come back to as we go forward. That could be included in Phase 2 of a bond call in 27, or that could be further out. But for campus equity's sake and to Mr. Schoolfield's point, to reduce the traveling of our students back and forth, we would need to look at doing something at that point for athletics. And then also have a transportation facility on here as we continue to grow as a district. I do believe that we will need to look into some sort of enhancement or some sort of replacement of our current transportation facility. I don't know what that looks like at this point, just things to keep on the burner as we start talking about this 10-year plan. And then again, there would be additional campus equity and repairs and improvements made throughout the district, so that block is down there at the bottom as well. All right, and then priority 4.3 is to ensure effective and efficient operations with transparency. So our strategic actions will be to develop key work processes. We will be undertaking that in this spring semester with the goal of an internal customer satisfaction survey to hopefully show that at least 95% of internal users are satisfied with the products that the business office is putting out. If not, we will start addressing those as soon as we get those results, and hope to improve that by the end of this school year. It's also our goal to develop budget skills in all budget managers. So if we expect them to utilize their budgets effectively and efficiently, we need to make sure that they have those skills as well. And so we will increase their skills by offering trainings to all of our staff, so that they can build those capacities within themselves. And then our sports services team will maintain accurate information regarding their projects and work orders, and they will look to complete their work orders within a 10-day span. So our progress on those, we are conducting financial trainings for non-business office staff. We actually started that in the spring. And so Ms. Ross and her team have 10 identified dates throughout the year that they come and offer trainings. They have a set agenda for about 6 or 7 of those trainings, and then the others are fluid based off of feedback from the users and things that are germane to them and what they need more training on. So we've had good attendance. A majority of them have been in this room, and it's been pretty packed. So it's good to see that our staff are taking advantage of those training opportunities. Tonight, you'll get the financial audit presented. There are no corrective actions, and it's an unmodified opinion, which in accounting lingo is really good. The internal customer satisfaction survey was sent out before Thanksgiving break. We're waiting to get those results back, and when we do, we'll start making our plans on improvements from our department so that we can hopefully reach and exceed that 95% approval threshold. And our support services team is gathering the necessary information that they need to analyze their work order time frame and try to get that down under that 10 working day threshold. So with that, that was super quick, but any questions on any of those performance indicators?
Questions from Mr. Colvin?
Hearing none, I tell you that in January, we will do priority 1.1 and 1.2 related to student growth as your balanced scorecard update.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next item, item D, our informational bond 2023 construction update. Mr. Mott.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Hollingsworth. I'm here to give you your December bond update. So we're going to go first with Jimmy Ray Elementary. It is still on time and on budget. The storm shelter has the big one this month on the storm shelter was we did pour 6 inches of concrete on the roof. And you'll see some pictures of that in that. And we, out there this afternoon, they were actually mobilizing and starting to work on the insides and starting to see that form up in there. Area A, steel erection, which that is going to be the cafeteria, the kitchen area, and actually the storm shelter as well. That is 85% complete. We do have the first exterior wall going up, and that is in the kitchen exterior area. Area B, steel erection started last week, and it is probably just columns and joists and those kind of things. It's probably about 45% up already on that. And then we are looking at the topping out ceremony for Wednesday, January 10th. It all is depending on that where we need to be by weather permitting between now and that time frame. So we did update after the last board meeting, after it was official, and we did update the sign from staying elementary school number 10 to it now does say Jimmy Ray Elementary. Here's your overview of October 31st to November 29th. A couple of the big ones that'll stick out to you are, you can see that we poured the last or area D slab there. You can see the steel erection around the storm shelter gym, and then you can see the roof there on the storm shelter. And there's just a straight overview of it. You can see a lot of the steel erector, red iron around the building on the site that is there, been delivered already, and just waiting for all that to start going up. Here is the first part of the frame wall there going up on the edge of the kitchen. Tomorrow they will start throwing the Denso deck on the outside, so a lot of people, it looks like an insulation or something, but that'll start going up tomorrow on that side of that wall. So we're getting closer to start, in essence, closing in the building. Here are some of your storm shelter ceiling or roof. So with this, the storm shelter has to withstand winds for about 2 hours of roughly 220 miles per hour. So there's a lot that goes on to it. So with that being said, they weld Nelson studs, what those are called, onto each beam. Those are where the rebar is tied onto, and then the rebar is tied into the rebar that was coming up out of the side wall you can see there in that one picture, and then all of that gets 6 inches of concrete poured on top of it. So it is a very fortified area. And again, we will have one of these at STEAM, at Wildman, and then the addition we're adding on to going to be Coleman Junior High will have an area classified as a storm shelter as well. So Wildman Steam Academy, still on time, on budget there. We have all city permits. We're working with TxDOT to get all the permits there. We just submitted the second round of comments back to them. Weren't surprised by a lot of the first comments, and actually it went a lot better than we figured it would go. So we were kind of glad to see that. The difference in this one is so when we start getting into slab and things like this, as you can see, we've drilled 212 piers in about 3 weeks' time. We have 0 piers at Jimmy Ray. The difference we'll get into those a little bit, but so there is a difference in slabs and things like that. That's some of where your costs, things like that, change because of the sites and those things. We have started our grade beams, poured our first grade beam last Thursday. MEP is starting there this week, meaning mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, starting to pull and dig all that in the area A on that area, on that. The plan right now is to pour area A slab by the end of January. But we will be seeing pours every week for the next 2 to 3 weeks of grade beams going on out there, as you see that. So we have our utilities, which is sewer, storm, water, domestic water, those kind of things have all been going on. Retaining wall is about 75% complete. And the pond, I'm going to tell you, is 98% complete. And the only reason I'm not telling you it's 100% complete is we're not dead sure that we're going to need a little bit more dirt out of there just in case. But they feel that it's it's complete, but we're just saving the result to maybe get a little bit more if we have to. Then here's your overview sites of that site. You can see it has changed greatly in a month's time there. And you can see in the bottom left picture where the pond looked like. And you can see in the top right picture that is a completed pond. The one thing they did change that I reported to you last month is that back wall along the trees. It was originally going to be more, I reported to you, it was going to be more like a shear with a shelf on it. They did change that to be a slope, so it is a gradual walkout slope just like all the rest.
And tell them about the rock, because they're depositing some rock back in that pond.
So we're going to get a little bit of savings from our utilities people because they're hitting a lot of rock, and they were going to have to haul it off and charge us for it. But they needed some dirt. So we said, we'll swap a little bit with you. So we're giving them some dirt out of the pond, and we're going to take their rock and put in there. So if you've driven by there, you may see piles of rock down in the bottom of the pond that will be distributed, laid out flat. Now, we have discovered that if we dig about 4 to 5 feet down, we'll hit groundwater. So we're talking about digging some holes in there so we can possibly have water coming into the pond all the time, not just a rain off. So that'll help solidify it as more of a pond all the time. If we do that, we're going to put some of that rock down in those holes so they don't, like a better term, mud over or dirt over, and they'll have some drainage to have the water come in more often. And then here's just a dead, more straight over shot. Now, the one thing I do want to point out to this in there is if you'll look at the left, you can see the retaining wall coming along through there. And where it stops there about the middle of that angle, that is now completed. And in that bottom part that looks like just like a trench there, that is also completed now. And then they're going to turning and going back to the right that you can't see in this picture. That'll go all the way along the far end driveway that drives in there. So we'll see some pictures here of this retaining wall. It is a really nice big feat to do. As you can see, the guy there on the left, he is standing in the first row of blocks. So that is a 4 foot tall by 4 foot wide, 4 foot front to back and 8 foot left and right deep, wide on those blocks. They're then poured full of gravel, as you can see there in that middle picture. And then you can see there on those bottom and that other picture there with the holes in them. That is actually completed. That is fully completed. The only thing left to do is they'll put a skim coat of concrete at the top, and then we'll have our 6 foot wrought iron fence. We'll go all the way around any place there's a retaining wall. We'll have that fence on there. The block you see there at the bottom and on that pallet, that is actually what a top row block looks like. It is finished like that on both sides because sometimes that top row is exposed, so it's seen. We will also be having 1 or 2 of those in the front area of the school. In the area where the library is, it's a glass front area with flower bed and so forth in front of it. We're going to put a couple of these in there as part of the decoration, as part of safety, so no one can make it from the curb into the building with a vehicle. And also people will be able to see, kids will be able to see exactly what the retaining wall was made out of and see it. So it serves a lot of purposes there. Here's your grade beams and piers. So those those piers are dug all through there, and they're from 18 inches, 24 inches, and 30 inches in diameter. And they're from 12 feet, I think, was roughly about our shallowest, to almost 28 feet is our deepest pier. And like I said, in different sizes. So we were required to, once we hit the blue rock, not the normal white rock that most people see around here, there's also a blue rock. Looks similar, but it's a lot harder. Once we hit that, we had to go 8 feet down through that to end our pier. So however, wherever we hit it at, then we had to go 8 feet more, just so we could get on solid ground in there. So those are drilled where there's either columns or for just under the actual grade beams. And so the grade beams are those you see in the left where they're forming them, and then you can see where they poured that one right there. Here's your utilities in progress. That would be your stormwater there on your left, and the right, the blue is actually the fire loop that goes all the way around, where all of our for fire protection, all those things will be in there on that. So we'll move on to Hancock Building. It's still working on. We just submitted some more for the permits on that one. There's a few things that we were figuring was going to came up on the last round, so we had to do some replanning to get that worked out with them. We have started, we're ready to start mobilizing, getting everything there as soon as we get the permits. And BTC is ready to go. We've already got our soil fence, got our construction fence, we've got everything ready and prepped. As soon as we get the permits, we'll start going on all that. We're going to Findlay, as you heard earlier. Findlay, I'll just go to Findlay and Howard both. They're right on the same lines of each other. We're working to develop all those plans, all that. We will meet with the staff there on those campuses. Seeing that we've just named a new principal there, we'll be forming him in the beginning of January. That first week back, we'll have a meeting with him. Dr. Avert, Dr. Hollingsworth, Ryan, and I will all have a meeting with him and showing him what's going on, letting him know so he is aware of what the future looks like for his campus. And comprehensive high school number 2. We're working with the WISD administration team to see what offerings we're going to have in the CTE area, because the architects can form a block, but they don't know what all's needed in that block in that building until we know those kind of things. The building layout concept was completed with the last launch, so we got a really good idea of how the launch committee was wanting the school to look and those kind of things, and we've gone through a couple of those. It's really coming around very well. Sat down this last Wednesday with Dr. Hollingsworth in our weekly meetings. The design engineer, the design architect, and the head architect came in to give us some preliminaries, and there were some comments made back to us if we could change a few things, but it's moving along very rapidly on that. We are looking to hopefully mid to third quarter of 2024 to release all the dirt work, the foundation, and utilities on that. Hopefully get those released and get permits going to start that, because that will be a very long process. That one is what we will play in the dirt, as that people say. It will be a very long and time frame for us to do that. We have met with TxDOT and NTOG. How do you say it? Okay, there you go, right there. Okay, so we met with them, and they have planned to build at least a 4-lane road along from 35 going east, going eventually it'll end up at 287. The first 1.6 miles will be, right now they've proposed at least a 4-lane, possibly even a 6-lane across the front through there. So it'd be 3 lanes and 3 lanes with a, depending on how many lanes they do, with a 20-foot or so median in the middle. So it'll be very nice. They have said it will be completed by the time we open that school. Prop C. So Ryan mentioned earlier the EPP plan. Prop C is covering a lot of those things. I have a list of those I'm keeping up on our side, so as we knock them off, we'll be able to pull them off the EPP plan, which is kind of what we like to do. We're helping everything as everybody has something on theirs, and we happen to have it in Prop C. We're going through those things and looking at them. So you can see here this month we have completed Felty shade cover. Marvin shade cover on both playgrounds and fall material on both playgrounds. And the TC Wildman had a new roof overlay completed this month. We're working on, I guess that'd have been in November. We're working in December on Finley Junior High. We're gonna be replacing all the exterior doors at the end of the hallways. We are not replacing right now the front doors or back doors at that school because those will be done in the renovations. There's no sense in spinning it and then having them possibly damaged or something. So we'll just wait to do those. But all the rest will be done on all the other exterior doors. We're hoping to complete that fully during Christmas break. And with that, right now they don't see anything wrong, that not happening, but we'll see as we get into it. The Wedgeworth will be replacing their last playground. We'll be replacing a full playground there, and that will include a shade structure and turf underneath it. And then Turner Pre-K and Little Chiefs, we are putting a new roof overlay on that building as we speak. Here's little pictures of Marvin. So that both those shade structures are brand new, and then like I said, the turf is on the one. That other playground already had what's called poured in place, so we just replaced it with exactly what was there. It was actually financially better to do that than to do turf, so we just went back with that on that one. And then here is Felty's shade cover, brand new shade cover. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mott.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. All right, our last item would be on the reports, be informational report from CPA of Vail and Park PC on the financial audit for the fiscal year that ended on August 31st, 2023.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce Mike Vail with Vail and Park. He's here to give you the audit report for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2023.
I have some copies of these.
This is your go forward, and then that's your go back if you need it.
Okay,
You
excellent.
want me to hand that out?
Yeah, if you could hand those out, I hope I have enough. If not, we can send some more at a later time, later this week. Okay, well, thank you, Ryan, for the introduction. And I appreciate the opportunity to come present the fiscal year 2023 audit results for WISD. Let me just click the next one. Okay. We're going to go pretty fast through the agenda, but we're going to cover the objective and scope of the audit, cover some audit results, financial highlights, and then open it up for Q&A. The objective of the financial statement audit was to meet the annual audit requirements of TEA, Texas Education Agency. And they required that an annual audit report approved by the Board of Trustees be filed not later than the 150th day after the end of the fiscal year, which for you would be at the end of January, so we're a month and a half early. For the scope of the audit, we perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards in the USA, as well as government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States, and that's called Yellow Book. We document and test the accounting internal controls of the district. We perform a risk assessment to determine what we auditors call it the audit net, nature, extent, and timing of our testing. And we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And what that means is we're performing sampling. We don't test 100% of transactions. On the audit results, we had some really good audit results. The independent auditor's report on the financial statements, as Ryan had talked about on his presentation, was unmodified opinion, and in layman's term, we call that a clean opinion. We also issue an auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance, and that is found on page 86 and 87 of the report that you have. And we issue a report on compliance for each major program and internal control over compliance required by uniform guidance. The last one is related to your single audit, the federal grants that you receive. Okay. On some financial highlights, one thing I wanted to point out on the financial statements that you have, the government-wide financial statements are on pages 10 to 12. The fund financial statements go from page 13 to 23. The notes to the financial statements, which give more details for specific line items on the financials, are pages 24 through 49. There's some budgetary information for the general fund on page 51. And then on page 93, there's a schedule of expenditures of federal awards if you want to see the funds that the district receives from federal grants. On page 6, on the statement of net position, the cash for the district increased due to the unspent 2023 bond proceeds. And total debt at year-end increased from 287 to 477 million related to the capital projects. On page 5, for the statement of activities, there was a net increase of 18.3 million, which is an improvement compared to the 11.9 million improvement in prior year. Total grants revenue was 14 million fiscal year 23 compared to 17.9 million fiscal year 22, and that was a decrease of 3.5 million. That was offset, however, by property tax revenues, which increased from 77 million to 94 million. On the general fund highlights, total fund balance increased from 24.4 million to 28.8 million. Total revenues increased by 9.5%, and expenditures increased by 5%. And as Ryan had mentioned, we did not have any reportable conditions and no material weaknesses identified on our testing of internal controls. And that concludes my presentation, and I just want to say thank you to your team. They did an outstanding job providing all of the financial information we requested. And that's Ryan Calden, CFO, Wendy Ross, Director of Accounting. We also worked with Susie Waldo of HR and Payroll on our HR and Payroll testing. And we performed inquiries and looked at your IT controls with Joe O'Daniel, Eli Sanz, and Stephen Castaneda, and they were all very professional, and we were very impressed with the professionalism of your team. So, and with that, we'll open it up to any questions you might have.
Any questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, board, our next item is our consent agenda. We have items A through H. If there's anyone that you would like to remove for individual discussion, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve all items A through H.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McCutcheon, second by Mr. Schofield. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, moving to item 10. Action item A would be consideration and possible action to approve a proposed staging area agreement with Ellis County. Mr. Albenchon?
Thank you, Mr. President, Board, Dr. Hollingsworth. This evening, we have the opportunity to approve a staging area agreement with Ellis County adjacent to land that the school district sold to Ellis County in 2021. It's about 4 acres of land on Highway Business 287. The land that is at issue is about an acre just to the east of the county's land, on land the school district owns. The county needs it for a staging area to support the construction of the Justice of the Peace Courts building that will be going on that property. We have entered into staging agreements with other entities adjacent to construction sites on our land. And so similar to those agreements, the county would agree to return the land back to us as they found it when the project is complete. The proposed project is going to commence soon and last for about 9 months. County will take care of insurance. County will assume the risk of any liability on the property, and the county will give Waxahachie High School students the opportunity, our construction trade students, the opportunity to come and experience a real construction site in a safe manner. This use will not impede the district's enjoyment of any of its property. The district doesn't intend on using this parcel of land for any purpose for the foreseeable future. So tonight, the administration urges the board to approve this proposed agreement with Ellis County to allow the county to build the new courts building there on 287.
Any questions, board? Okay, this time I entertain a motion to approve a proposed staging area agreement with Ellis County.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rogers,
Second.
second by Mrs. Timmerman. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much, sir. Our next action item will be consideration and approval of the fiscal year audit that ended on August 31st, 2023.
Board, you just heard the report from Mr. Vale, and so I urge your approval of the audit report tonight.
Move to approve.
A motion by Mr. Starnader, second by Mr. Schofield. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. And our last action item would be consideration of possible approval of two buses from Longhorn Bus Sales not to exceed $282,840 and the necessary budget amendments.
Board, we had previously talked about some grant funds that we had received, and they were to purchase some buses, and we're not anticipating those buses actually arriving until probably May or June of '24. But an opportunity has come up to purchase 2 additional buses from Longhorn. They've been ordered by another district who is now does not want them, and so Mr. Grippa has reached out, and we were quoted a price of $282,840 to purchase these buses. They would supplement our fleet and give us that much more flexibility as we continue to go through the school year. It is not an originally budgeted item, so it would require a budget amendment or an increase to the expenditure budget for this fiscal year.
When would these buses be available?
It's my understanding that these buses are built and available now, that we should be getting them within about a month to 6 weeks.
Or is there any cost savings because another district ordered them?
No, sir. No, they're brand new, so they haven't even been driven off the lot.
Denied. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of 2 buses from Longhorn Bus Sales not to exceed $282,840.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Kriegel. Second. By Mr. McCutcheon. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you,
very
Board.
much. Okay, Ward, our last item on our agenda will be comments from our individual board members. Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I know as a teacher, I always look forward to this Friday. So I want to wish everybody a happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Please be safe, keep yourself safe, and come back revived for the new year. But everybody have a wonderful holiday. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll go. I just want to acknowledge again the young lady, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, that presented to us tonight from the FCCLA.
Victoria Nash.
Victoria Nash, okay.
That's a little loud.
Oh, boy. Did you get that?
Anyway, she was awesome, and I think it would be awesome to have any other kids, you know, that represent groups that want to come and make us aware of what they're doing. I mean, I would encourage them to come. That was awesome. Yes, it is. Yes, very much so. And then one more thing, I just want to acknowledge, I know a lot of times in May, that's when a lot of folks retire, and so there's acknowledgement in May, and that seems like to be, you know, that's the main time when people retire, but we do have some people that are retiring in December. I don't have everybody's name, so I don't want to leave anybody out, but I just want to acknowledge their hard work and their dedication to the district. Those that are retiring in December.
Anyone else?
Just congrats to our financial department on the audit and the rating. I know a lot of hard work goes into that. And the second topic, I know as we embark on rezoning, it's going to be, you know, tough for some families, and we understand that, and hopefully people will see the big picture and how we go about making the decisions that are best for everybody involved. So just want everybody's mindset to get geared towards that process.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Sean, did he leave? Oh, Sean, I did not realize that there were 64, like you said. As I was driving over here tonight, I was thinking about my granddaughter's programs, the band, everything that's going on this time of year, and all the extra work that people put in for that, directors, teachers. So I want to do a shout out to all of them and all their extra work that they do to put on such excellent plays, concerts. It's, they're outstanding.
I'm going to expand a little bit on what Ms. Starnetter said about any other student groups that want to come to speak to us. I'd like to know, we'll put them on the agenda instead of open forum so we can actually respond and have a dialogue with them. So please let us know. We'll put them on the agenda so we can have a dialect with them. No one else? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Kriegel. Second by Mrs. Timmerman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay, motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.